If it was easy to run a business, then
Everyone would do it. I feel like everybody should. I feel like
Right.
everybody should at least try to do
Yeah.
something at some point.
Yeah.
Just so you get perspective on it and get perspective on what it is. And it'll make you more qualified at whatever career you're going to do, even if
Yeah.
you don't go to run a business, because you understand business. You
Yeah.
understand the aspects of it.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Sonia Pedowick, your host of the Catalyst podcast. I'm a small business owner here. I founded Torian Consulting 9 years ago, an IT staffing firm here in Las Vegas. And during pandemic, I started the Catalyst Mastermind Collaborative, a small business mastermind that serves the small business community. I'll be coming to you twice a week, once just to talk about business ownership and what a mastermind group is, and once a week with a small business owner who will share their stories about lessons learned, how they started their businesses, share their knowledge with you, and all about the small business community and networking here in the Las Vegas market. So let's get into it. Hey, John.
Hey, Sonia.
Welcome to my podcast.
Oh, thanks for having me. Yeah, no, I
Yes.
appreciate you inviting me.
I wanted to have you on because I am inspired by your small business story and what you do. Of course, I'm a tech nerd at heart, a little bit of a tech nerd. And so I wanted to chat with you today a little bit about why you started your business, why your business is so important to the business community. And then, of course, being a member of the Catalyst Incubator Mastermind, like why you're in that course, maybe what it's done for you, and then maybe share a little bit of tidbits of what small businesses need to know about the industry that you're in. So let's start off with, what is your business and why did you start it?
No, I'm IT, managed services and consulting. So let's dive into that. What is managed services? What I do is I provide hardware, software services, IT consulting and support to small businesses in Las Vegas. So answering some of the questions, like what kind of email should I go with? How do I secure my email system? What kind of PCs, laptops do I need? Do I need a Mac, PC, those things? Those are kind of the questions that I'll answer for small businesses.
And it's key because everyone is looking how to save costs. Everyone's looking how to be more efficient. And it's really transitioning from having an in-house IT team or person to outside services. Well, not all companies can afford, or it doesn't make sense maybe to have an in-house person.
Well, exactly. And to be entirely honest, a lot of the companies that I deal with never even had that in-house person. It's usually owner-led supporting the IT. Somebody's doing it. It's probably the owner, or maybe the owner has a person that they trust doing it and handling it, but it's not their primary role. That's where I come in and I help people actually kind of develop a system and a process around maintaining and managing that. I take that burden off of the owner so they're not getting random calls and they can keep their staff doing what it is that makes them money.
And that's huge in the small business world because a lot of times we start small businesses and we're chief cook and bottle washer. We think we can do it all, everything from our finances to our marketing to our sales and IT. And a lot of times IT takes the back burner because we think, at least this is my experience having run a small business and coaching small businesses, we think, oh, we just need to buy PCs and we just need to buy printers and we just need to connect them. And if we can get our email to work, then we're up and running.
Yeah, you're set and you're ready to go, right? And for all appearances, you realistically are.
Right.
You can do that, and that's what everybody does. There comes a point, though, when you're trying to hire, you're trying to bring on staff, you're trying to grow, that doing it in that way becomes really cumbersome. And if you think about all the time that you spent actually initially researching, okay, what email am I going to use? What computer do I need? Can I get one from Costco? Do I have to get this business model? Dell, HP, putting in all that effort and putting in all that work and then trying to do that for 2 people, 5 people, 10 people. That's a full-time job at that point.
I was talking to someone the other day who was like, well, what kind of laptop should I get? And I'm like, well, what kind of work is your person going to do? Does it have the right video card? Is it someone who's just doing email, or are they going to be creating content for you? And like just weighing all that out is not something that just the lay person can always figure out by themselves.
And even if you can, why spend the time doing it?
Exactly.
You're running a business. You're doing something other than your core thing that you do is something other than IT. Why put in that effort?
And then to take it to a step further or deeper, you go into kind of the black hat versus white hat stuff and everything that's going on when it comes to cybersecurity and all the companies that are being hacked or taken advantage of. And I was sharing with you this little women's circle that I'm in online of a bunch of women business owners where somebody reached out and said, hey, can someone help this business owner recover? I think they lost like $100,000 through an email hack and it's already gone. It's not a lot of things that you can do once that money is taken from you. And it's really was done through some social engineering a lot of times when internal IT is band-aided together, or it's just like, hey, I got my laptops, I got this and that, and they don't protect themselves from a cybersecurity perspective, that's when the trouble starts to happen.
Well, I mean, when we're in the examples we're talking about and band-aiding this stuff together, you're probably not even really thinking about that.
Yeah.
You're not thinking about your cybersecurity, or if you aren't thinking about it from a holistic approach. I mean, just to piggyback off the example that you gave, I mean, there's multiple areas where you would want to try and prevent and remediate that kind of a thing because somebody's email was compromised. Well, how did they get compromised in the first place? Most likely, they had a spam email where they gave away their password. You should be looking at phish, spam protection to prevent those from ever coming. There's tools that can actually also look to see if somebody's email has been compromised by checking the logins. Are they logging in from across the United States, across the world, somewhere different? That could have potentially stopped it. There's proper training. You know, they wouldn't have given away that $100,000 if you had the right policies and procedures in place around your finances. And finally, there's cyber liability insurance. Okay, this all happened. How do we then recover from it? So all of these aspects and all these steps could have been thought out and some level saved you that money. But if you're not thinking about that, you're not living that, you're not monitoring that day in and day out, it gets really difficult.
When it comes to cybersecurity insurance, even though you have it, if you have an incident that takes place and they come in and say, okay, we're going to cover this incident, but did you do what you said you did when you applied for the cybersecurity?
Oh, that's a fantastic point. You have to prove that you're doing the things that you said you were doing when you applied for it. Everybody has MFA. You have a written security policy that you audit. You check in. You check and make sure everybody's using MFA. And you prove that you did those things.
And when you come to MFA, help people who maybe don't know what that is. What is that?
So MFA stands for multi-factor authentication. The easiest way to think about this is think about what you're doing when you're logging in. You're providing a username saying, this is me, and then you're providing a password, a secret to say, this is definitely me because I know the secret. Well, as we know, and there's a lot of accounts, a lot of passwords, everybody tends to make theirs the same, and it's easy to kind of get that away from somebody. So MFA layers another thing on top of that. You've seen this when you go to log in to an account and you get an email with a code or a text message with a code. Maybe you have an authenticator app. Biometrics are forms of MFA. They're another factor for your authentication. So your phone facial recognition or thumbprint. And then even there's hardware tokens called FIDO keys where you can have a little USB that you carry around with you, plug in, and it'll log you into your machine.
Oh my gosh, I would lose that. Heartbeat. Talk about password keepers and the difference between a password and a passphrase.
So when we're just jumping right off of the password and identity, we have maybe 10, 50, I have hundreds of passwords across different systems that I have to track and manage and monitor. A password manager is a tool that's designed to track those passwords for you and can actually enter them into the web browsers, your different software, depending on the tools. There's different variations of them. I recommend that you look for a company that does that specifically. You can get them in your web browsers, right? Chrome's got that built in. Hey, do you want me to save this? Edge, do you want me to save this? That's not the most secure way to do it because it's tied into your web browser. And if somebody gets in front of your web browser, they can just pull that info right out. So look for somebody like a Keeper, like a 1Pass, something like that focuses specifically around doing that. And when you go to use this, let that system create the password. At that point, there's no reason for you to know it. You don't need it. You can have individual passwords for the account. You don't need to know what the password is. Let that know it. The only password you got to remember is the one to log in, the Keeper, the master password.
The master password.
I keep referencing Keeper because that's the one I use and I prefer. And then a passphrase is instead of creating just a word or a random set of characters, you create a phrase that makes sense to you and that's easy for you to remember.
No, that's definitely, it's way more secure. I used to try to think of new words and, combinations of this and that and years and all. And I've just gone to letting the password generator create the password for me. And a lot of times, whatever it's trying to create for me, the website is saying, hey, it needs to be 16 characters with this, flavor of mixture. And I don't have to think about it. It can't have an exclamation. It can't have I don't have to think about it. It just does it for me.
It takes that off of you because it really is. It's impossible to remember all these different passwords.
Exactly.
And that's what we found over the past 20, 30 years of doing this kind of stuff and having people have all these different passwords. At the end of the day, it would be great if we could have complex passwords and we could memorize all these things. But we're human.
It's better to just let the tool and the automation work for you. So what are some of the things that you're seeing the biggest mistakes that small businesses make out there, other than not having maybe a cybersecurity policy or plan? What are you seeing out there?
It's big, small. It's all about identity and extorting people through their identity.
Yeah.
Finding a way to gain access to something that represents somebody, most commonly email. Right?
Yeah.
Getting access to somebody's email account and then leveraging that in some way to extort people, whether that be the person whose email account you compromised or people that they know.
Right.
And so not properly protecting those things through MFA, enabling some sort of fish filtering, and honestly staying up to date and training on the different the different types of attacks that you're going to be exposed to. We always say phishing, that's a generic kind of word for suspicious email. There's a lot of different ways people approach that. It's not just the Nigerian prince scheme now. They'll come and they'll be pretty legitimate. I mean, I mentioned somebody gaining access to your email and then using it to extort the people you work with or know.
Right.
That reverse can happen to you. There have been multiple times over the past 3 to 4 weeks where I have had clients request emails be released that my system had quarantined. And it was from a legitimate sender. It was from the actual person that they knew. That person's email account was compromised.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's why the system had caught it. It caught some malicious links in there. It caught it through kind of text analysis and the verbiage that was being used and said, hey, this looks off. We're going to quarantine this.
Right.
And it was somebody had lost access to their.
Yeah. And I think we're so busy being busy that sometimes we just think, oh, it's, this is just a normal email that I get. This looks familiar, whatever the case may be, that a lot of times it's the admin support, it's the assistant that gets caught in those type of situations because they're just so busy and getting into sort of routine that I find myself like just pausing. If it looks like just a normal email, like I just open up the email and look at who it's from and just look at the extension of the email and make sure it's actually from my client and not like I don't think people know to do that, to look at the actual email
address.
The actual email address.
Well, and that's tough. So that's a great point. You want to look at the actual email address that was sent and make sure it's there. But there's some forms of email compromise or targeted phishing that make that very difficult. I've seen examples of it. And actually, I was talking to somebody who had this happen to them. Well, not them. It was a friend of theirs. One of their vendors had been compromised or actually, no, I take that back. They were compromised and they were working with a vendor.
Right.
The vendor had a domain with an L in it. The attacker purchased another domain with an I instead of the L so they can set up a legitimate authorized email account. Right. They impersonated that vendor and they extorted that person for $100,000. And you can't tell. You can't because a small I, or a capital I and a small lowercase L look the same.
Yeah.
You're not going to see that.
Right.
What will catch that though is if you have proper identification methods in place. You can configure systems so that you get a little banner saying, hey, this looks like the person, but it's not them.
Yeah. Yeah. And I often have like clients that will say, well, gosh, you're going to spend X amount of dollars a year in this MSP, managed service provider support, and you may never get hacked. And I'm like, okay, but if I spend $30,000 a year and I avoid $100,000 hack, like to me, that's just protection.
Well, I would say, isn't that the point?
Right.
And I won't, if somebody comes up to you and says, hey, you're never going to get hacked and you're never, like you buy this system and you're never going to get compromised, that's a sales tactic.
Right.
Because the reality is it's like planning for a fire or planning for a natural disaster.
Yes.
We build systems to be robust and withstand that. But they can also happen, which is why we talk about remediation, disaster recovery plans,
all those
and
things.
insurance.
Yeah.
But the point in engaging with a technology professional is to prevent these things from 100%. Happening. So if you're spending that amount of money a year and you're able to prevent something that could shut your business down entirely, because we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like the person I mentioned, that was a legitimate amount that they had ended up losing. How many of you out there could stay in business if you lost $100,000 to nothing?
Well, and my answer back is very similar to what you're saying, but it's not just the amount that hit my bank account. It's brand recognition and brand promise, right? Now my customers know, hey, you didn't protect my data. You didn't protect whatever it was I was sending back and forth to you. And now if I'm like spinning, trying to recover this, that's days away from my current job, my current business, like taking care of. It's not just the dollar amount that hit my bank account. There's exponential.
It's reputational damage.
100%. 100%.
No, reputational damage is huge. I mean, there are vendors, you'll notice when we were talking about password managers, there was a certain vendor who's very big in that industry. I did not mention it. I didn't mention them specifically because of some incidents that have happened. I won't say the name because I don't do that, but yeah, reputation is huge, and you can't quantify the amount of money you could potentially lose on that because it's lost opportunity.
100%.
Because it's lost trust.
Right. Yeah, and you don't want to have that. And
exactly.
For sure. So now you've been in business since earlier this spring and you're gaining some market share. How does it feel to be a business owner?
Honestly, it feels fantastic. Yeah, it feels great. I was always the type of person who worked really hard at what they did. Yeah. I would work a lot. And so now I'm working a lot for myself. And that shift there has been, really fantastic.
Yeah. What have been some of the biggest ahas or learning moments that you've discovered?
Oh, the biggest, that's honestly, like I zone out a little bit, or I'm not zone out, but I got to think about that for a second. I think the biggest aha moment I really had was how much there is to do when you run a business.
Yeah. All
the little different aspects, licensing, making sure you're set up right with the state, all the little nuts and bolts and pieces, taxes was a fun one.
Yes, right.
I've learned a lot about taxes with the start of the year. I'll say that. But yeah, all those little intricate pieces that go into making a business run and be successful that you have to kind of track and do.
Yeah.
I didn't appreciate that, I think, before. And now kind of going through and doing that, I really do appreciate that.
Yeah. They say if it was easy to run a business, then everyone would
do it. I feel like everybody should. I feel like everybody should at least try to do something at some point.
Yeah.
Just so you get perspective on it and get perspective on what it is. And it'll make you more qualified at whatever career you're going to do, even if you don't go to run a business, because you understand business, you understand the aspects of it.
Yeah. And what brought you to seek out something like the incubator or mastermind? What was kind of the impetus for wanting that sort of support or education?
Well, throughout my career, I've been involved with different groups, not owner focus groups, more on operational leads, management, young management training, leadership training, things like that. So I've seen the power of working with people who are going through similar experiences. Mm-hmm. And I remember when I was learning to manage people, learning to lead people, it was difficult. I made a lot of mistakes. I struggled a lot. But when I was introduced to peer groups where we were all focusing on that, it helped me feel a lot more comfortable, one, in myself, that, hey, I'm not the only one who can't figure this out. But two, it gave me tools to become a better manager, become a better leader. And so when I went to go on my own, I wanted to engage with something like that because I knew that there would be things, like I kind of mentioned earlier, taxes and these little minutia things I wouldn't know. There's so much value as a small business owner in having people around you who are going through the same thing, because it can get scary, it can get lonely, you can lose a lot of confidence in yourself at times, and having people that you can talk to and lean on, it's a way where you're at that moment where you got to decide, is this really what I'm going to do? Can I push forward? You have people that kind of back you and push you forward. And so I think that's really the biggest thing right there.
Yeah, I love that part of it. Yeah, because I do feel like everyone thinks a little Lone Ranger-y, like I'm out here doing it on my own, or I have to do it on my own, and that's like the worst place to be. Nobody
does it on their own.
No.
Nobody's done it on their own. Like Elon, Bezos, none of them did it on their own. There's no such thing as a self-made millionaire. There's no such thing as a self-made billionaire.
Right.
Everybody has people around them supporting them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everybody has a network.
Right.
Everybody has friends. Everybody has their group of cheerleaders behind them.
Yeah. So what's up for you for this coming year? What are some of the big goals that you have or big things that you want people to know about going into this new year?
Oh, I'm growing. I'm looking to bring on more clients.
Yeah. And what is the ideal client for you then? What's the sweet spot? Number of employees? Is it number of employees, size of business, revenue? What is the ideal?
So I don't focus on a specific type of business or vertical. I spent my entire career being a generalist. I've worked with manufacturing, finance, CPAs. I've worked with legal. I've worked with property management, fine dining. I've worked with actually fast casual too. So fast food restaurants, I've supported them. And I like that diversity where I focus in on what is the ideal business for me. It would be somebody with an employee range right now between 5 and 30. Although as I get bigger, I'll increase that range. And really, I'm looking for the small business owner who's kind of at that point where they're like, hey, I recognize that this is taking way too much of my time. I'm ready to focus on the business and I want to offload offload some of this work that I'm doing. I want to offload the things that aren't what I do,
right,
and focus on the things that I do. That's the perfect time to engage with me because we're both going to be speaking the same language, and I'm going to be right there ready to show you exactly how we can set up systems that I can support you.
yeah. And I think it's interesting too, because I think a lot of businesses don't even know how they can leverage. They don't know really it's maybe something they don't want to focus on, but they really don't even know if they even just had a conversation with you to do some sort of audit to be like, where am I wasting money in IT? Like, how many subscriptions do I have that I'm not using? How many licenses? I mean, that was a big eye opener for me. Just having like dark licenses that, hey, I ended this employee, but yet these subscriptions and licenses are still sitting out there, like not even knowing the policies that I should have in place when I onboard and offboard someone. And was it done through fruition?
Yeah, whenever I go in and I meet with people who, especially if they don't have IT, but even sometimes if they do have IT managing them, it's amazing what you can find that's just kind of left out there hanging. Oh yeah, we let go of that person, 2-3 months ago, but we're still paying a license.
Yeah.
They may still actually be able to sign into that account. Like, was it properly terminated? Right. Those things are huge. And yeah, oftentimes I can save money. The way that you could do that is through just taking a look at what you're spending holistically on IT, and also look at what you want from your IT spend.
Right.
Where do you want your business to go? Where can IT really help you accelerate in that direction?
Yeah.
From there, we could definitely save money, maybe in a piece of software that doesn't really fit your need. You may also actually have to spend a little bit more money, but the spend that you have is going to gain you more efficiency and hopefully from there, more revenue and more profit margin down the line.
Yeah. And are you working smarter instead of harder? Do you have the right up-to-date laptops and PCs? And are they, upgraded to the right operating systems? And you were mentioning to me the other day that you're possibly thinking about getting HIPAA certified, and that's going to be a huge get for you to be able to be in that space and then be able to work with medical clients. And that's a whole another beast of certification and compliance that it's so regulated.
Yeah. Well, and so HIPAA certified and like HIPAA certification, I'm going to look into the little missing pieces that I have to officially say that, yes, I'm HIPAA compliant and HIPAA certified. But I'm actually not that far off from it because HIPAA and a lot of the other compliancy, what they want to see is that you're properly managing your data. You're properly managing your at that point, patient data or customer data, however you want to look at it, if you're looking at PCI. And any technology vendor should already have that filter in mind, should already be looking at that. To be honest, any business should already be looking at these things. HIPAA is just, are you meeting these specific conditions?
Right. Yeah.
And so I'm actually not that far off. I was talking to my legal team. I just have to make a couple modifications to my contracts. I have to add 1 or 2 training things to my own personal side, and
there you go.
You're
off to the races.
Yeah.
So anyone who's looking to kind of evaluate where their IT department is now, cost savings, offload it from them as a leadership person, those are the people that you want to talk to.
Exactly. Yep.
That's awesome.
At that point where you're ready to, you recognize that this isn't what your main focus is, and you're ready to have somebody in come and help you, just let's talk.
Yeah,
let's sit down, have a conversation. I will point you in whichever direction I think is best for you, even if that's not necessarily with me, because I don't service everybody. And I have a specific stack that I work with. I have a specific type of way that I operate. I focus more on the modern office, cloud, SaaS technology.
Nice.
There's a Microsoft Office 365 ecosphere. If you're not there, we can still talk and have a conversation. If you want to head that way, I'll take you. If you don't, I'll give you some advice and maybe even help you find somebody who can support you.
That's awesome. Well, it's been super fun having you in the incubator group because I've worked with you in your previous life when you were, as an employee of a company, and then watch you become a business owner and knowing, when you become a business owner, like your why is different, right? You have personal goals. You want to build something for yourself, for legacy, for your family, and being able to be a part of that is really great. But watching you each month take all these learnings in and then apply it to your business and actually take action on each thing, which is why I designed the incubator group, has been super fun. And then watching you pour into the other members and really connect with them, that has been really great for me to watch. I mean, that's why I built the group and I love it. So I'm excited to see you graduate in March. And then a new group will hopefully be starting in April. So that's super exciting. So I appreciate you trusting me to be a little part of your journey for sure. So thank you for that.
No, thank you. Thank you for bringing me into the group, mentioning it. I didn't even know about the group, even though I was going out until you said, hey, you should do this. And I was
Yes.
like, oh, I should. No, that'd be perfect.
Take your business to new heights.
Exactly.
So before we go, tell all my listeners where people can connect with you, how they can find you, and potentially learn how to do business with you.
Yeah. So the best way to get a hold of me right now, and I'm going to get a little in trouble for this because I haven't gotten some things up, but the best way to get a hold of me right now is to email me.
Okay.
It's john@nextech.vegas, and that's spelled NEXTEC.Vegas.
Perfect. That's the way to go.
Yeah, and you can check out my website at the same domain.
Awesome. And any parting advice for any small business owners out there for this new year, whether it's IT or business mastermind focused?
The advice would be the same for both. I would say if you are serious about your business and you want to grow, you need to start developing process. You need to start developing policy and procedure. You need to treat it as a business, whether that be from IT, your operations, your finances, your sales, your marketing. And to be honest, I could say, hey, that you should do this for cybersecurity. You should do that. But if you're a properly running business that has policy, procedure, and an expected in and out, you are already miles ahead of a lot of people from a cybersecurity standpoint.
That's awesome. Yeah. Thank you for being on my show.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
If you like what you saw today on the Catalyst podcast, make sure you subscribe to our show, like it, and share it with someone who you think might also find value.